Hi guys, it's been a while. Today I'm just going to be doing part one for the PROG POE for on those who are doing C Sharp for 2023. Now I'm doing this on a Friday, but from your point of view, you're probably going to be doing it on the due dates when I hand this out. But before we start, let's just read what they want us to do first. So for part one, they want us to develop a recipe taking software. So they want us to write a console program that requires user input. We also need to apply string manipulation to solve a programming problem, and then use automatic properties to solve the problem. And they want us to store this in GitHub. I'll make a quick one how to store stuff in GitHub, but it's pretty easy. I mean, you could watch other videos on how to store things on GitHub. Okay, here you go. So using C Sharp and Visual Studio, we need to design and implement a standalone command line application that fulfills the following requirements. So they want to use it to enter the number of ingredients, and then for each ingredient, the name, quantity, unit of measurements, the number of steps, and a description for each step that it will take. Then we need to give them the option to display the full recipe. We also need to give them the option to scale the recipe up to a factor of a half, double, or triple the ingredients. We also need to give the user the option to reset the quantities to their original values. And we also need to give them the option to clear all the data and the data we're storing. We're going to be using arrays with this. And then the software should not persist. The software should not persist to use the data between runs. The data should only be stored in memory while the software is running. This just basically means exit. This is just basically our exit thing, you know. And but they don't want us to hard store the data we're using. Our data is just going to be floating, you know, and being stored on the application while it's running. The moment we close the application, all the data is lost. Okay, so we're just going to go to VS Code. We're going to go to create new project. I'm going to click console app. You can go here. Next. I'm going to call this one PROG part 1 taught, for tutorial. Click next, next, and create. Okay, what I always do is I normally just wait for VS Studio to load for a bit until I see a little screwdriver pop up. Here it is. Just click that and go to convert to main style program. And then here's your main style program. Now, what we're going to do is we already have our internal class. That's the class we're going to be using to run this main method. What we're going to do is we're going to create another class that's we're going to be pulling all of our methods from, and then we're going to be creating an object out of that class and then pulling it in our main method. So underneath this internal class, or you can just press this minus button to close it. So then underneath that, we're just going to say class recipe. This class is where we're going to be getting all of our recipe methods from. And then what we're first going to do is initialize our arrays that we're going to be using. So they want us to first enter our ingredients. And since our ingredients are like our ingredient names, that will be a string. So we're going to say private string. And remember, it's an array, so we need the square brackets, string ingredients. I hope I spelled that right. Next, they want us to do the amount. Now, since we're working with scales and stuff like that, we're going to be using doubles instead of integers. So we're going to be using numbers in that. I thought I had this closed. Disable notifications. I'm just going to do turn off all. Yeah, okay. So now we're going to do private double amount. Next, we're going to do the units. So the units of measurement. And that's also, we're going to use a name for that instead. You know, we're not going to do like, numbers and stuff like that. So we're going to say private string as ingredients box units. And then we're also going to do the same thing for steps. So private string steps. You know, if whenever you get lost, get into the habit of making comments just to say what you need. So you'd say you need ingredients, amounts, you know, stuff like that. Or do what I like to do, and I normally have like a notebook or stuff next to me. So then I write down the steps I need to take to finish these projects or these assignments and that. Because it makes it easier to break down what you need to do instead of just going in blind and hoping for the best, you know. So it's better to just like pre-plan what you're going to do before you write the code. I'm sure most of us have done logic and design, so the flow charts and that are helpful, you know. Okay, next we're going to do public recipe. In a moment. Where's this done? Yeah. Public recipe. Now we're gonna just initialize the containers in our arrays. So we're gonna go ingredients is equal to a new string 0. We're basically saying, okay, our array is now empty. We're gonna do that the same for the other stuff. So amounts. See, the great thing about Visual Studio is that it auto completes the stuff for you. You know, units, new string, and then steps, new string. You know, don't rely on this though. You know, it's good practice to just write out the whole thing. But if you do get to a place where you feel comfortable and know what you're doing, then you can just use the autocomplete. You know, but don't rely on it too much because sometimes it will just jump the gun and give you something else completely different that you don't need. Okay, so now that's our public recipe. So now our next thing we need to do is we need to make our method for entering data that we're going to pull from our main method later. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a public void method, public void, enter data or data, whichever you want. And then we're going to say CW tab. That's the shortcut for console.writeLine. So just type CW and then press tab to autocomplete for you. And then we'll just say enter number of ingredients. And underneath that, we're going to put an integer. We're going to call it num for ingredients number equals, and then because we're using a string, like our answer is going to be in a string, we need to convert it to an integer. So we do convert dot to, I like using to N32. I mean, oh, excuse me. It's just a default one. I don't know. I just like that one. N32, and then inside we do console dot readline. Now, underneath that, we'll do we're gonna do a for loop, but then we're also gonna say we're gonna start entering the stuff into our arrays using engnum. So we're just gonna say ingredients is equal to new string square. See what I say about the autocomplete? It did something that I didn't want. Engnum. There you go. I'm just gonna have it caps. This makes me feel more comfortable. Ingredients. And then now it figured out what I wanted to do. So then we're gonna do it for amount. And then we're gonna do it for units. We're not gonna do it for steps. Steps is for when we're gonna ask for a number of steps, and we'll use a different for loop for that. So now we're gonna press that for int I is equal to 0. I is less than in num. Then close that off, and then I plus plus, and then we do that, and that's our for loop. And then in the for loop, we're going to ask them to enter the details. So CW tab, and now what we're going to do, we're going to be using string manipulation just to make things easier. So we're going to press on your keyboard, press shift and press 4 to get the $sign. And then we're going to put the quotations. And then we're going to say enter in ingredient details. Okay. Now here's where we do the string manipulation. We're going to have hash, and then we're going to put squiggly brackets, I plus 1. And then we're going to put this, the colon, the quotations. This thing here, this I plus 1 with this hash. What we're basically saying is when a for loop counts what the number of ingredients we're entering, it's going to ask us to enter the number of ingredients, and then it's going to give this I a value. And then once that's done, it's going to increment it by 1. So then when it asks us for our second ingredient, it'll say enter ingredient, details 2. So say, okay, no, this is our first ingredient, and then there's our second ingredient, and then there's our third ingredient. If you've worked with PHP before and you used exam, it's the same thing when you click that AI. We're basically auto-incrementing the ingredients we're using. Okay, so then CW, instead of right line, I'm just going to make it right. And then we're going to say name. And then we're going to add that value into our array. So console dot read line. And then we need to do the same thing for our amounts and our units. So just to make things easier, I'm just going to copy these 2 lines. Control C, Control V, Control V, Okay, I'm going to call this next line quantity, and then we're going to change this array to amount. Now, this is a double, so to here we need to say convert dot to double, and then just put this in a bracket. So then this will take the digits that we've put in, which would be a string, convert it to a double, and then put it into our array amount. And then this will be units of measurement. And then we'll just change this to units. Okay, we're done with that. Press enter. And now we're going to ask them for the number of steps. So CW, enter number of steps. And then we're going to do this colon here. Then we're going to do the same thing we did with the previous for loop. So int, we're going to call this stp num, which is short for step number, equals convert to int32 console.readline. Then we're also going to add that into the steps array. So the steps is equal to new string step num. And then we're going to do for int a is equal to 0, a is less than step num a plus plus, and then we'll just ask them. So CW, just take out that line part for console.writeLine, and then instead of enter the number of steps, we're going to do the same string manipulation we did in the previous line here. So we're going to say we did the steps hash, and then squiggly brackets, and then we call this a plus 1. Close that off, and then just like the previous thing, it will just just like the previous thing, it will just increment the step number by 1 after each value we've added, and then we'll just say steps bracket I, sorry, not I, a. I'm so used to using I, is equal to console dot read line. And yeah, I forgot to add a little brackets here. And that should be it for our enter data method. Yeah, that should be it for our enter data method. So you can leave this open or close it just to make things look neat, up to you. So underneath this, I'm gonna do the recipe display. Once we've already entered all the stuff, now we just wanted to display all the stuff that we entered. So I'm gonna do another public void. So public void recipe display. And just a quick reminder, all the stuff that we've entered here in this method, the enter data, right now it's being stored in here. It's floating throughout this whole class right now. So all the data that we stored here is going to be stored in these arrays here. So then all of these main methods that we're going to call now, they're going to be sharing the same data, which means that each one has the potential to manipulate it or pull from it. So for recipe display, we're just going to do the same thing. Console.writeLine. We're going to say ingredients. I really don't trust myself in my spelling here, but whatever. And then we're going to do a for loop. So for int I is equal to 0, semicolon, I, well, they would have wanted for me. So I is less than the ingredients dot length. So the array length, I plus plus. And then we're going to do console.writeLine. Now here's where we're going to do more string manipulation. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the $ again, the quotation, then we're going to do a little hyphen here. Now in the squiggly brackets, we're going to be adding 3 squiggly brackets. We're going to put it in the format of amount, units, and then ingredients. So because we're doing a recipe app, we'll be like, okay, maybe you need 10 milligrams of parsley or 10 kgs of fish. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our amount for array. I'm going to put a 0 here because it's going to be pulling from this right now. But then as soon as we add the value here, it's going to be added here, and then this is going to take it as well. Amount, and then we're going to do another squiggly bracket, units, 0, of, and then another squiggly bracket, and then ingredients, another 0, and then we just close it off. So then now when we click display, it's going to show us what we entered. So amount, units, of, ingredients. So if we did 10 kgs of fish, then 10 would be here, kgs would be here, and then fish would be here. Next, we're going to display the steps. So CW, steps, same as before, for loop, for loop, int a is equal to 0. Did the same thing I wanted, a plus plus, CW, and then same as before, $, quotation, dash, squiggly bracket, the steps array with the box, 0, and then close it off with another quotation. And then this will display our steps. And that's it for the display recipe method. So we're going to close that off. I'm just going to delete this so it looks kind of neater. Okay, now underneath that, we are going to do our scale. So we're going to do another public void. Just if you remember my videos on the Java POE with the login and the username, it's basically the same thing where we just, instead of just creating this one overly complex main method, we just create another class with smaller methods inside of them, like in chunks that we can pull from. Because it's easier just to break things down than just to create this whole long thing that does everything, you know. I'm a big believer in keep it simple, stupid, and it's a good thing to implement when you're doing code. So we're going to call this recipe scale. And then we're going to do something a bit different. We're going to say double scale. But it's just so we don't have to put double scale in this method here. Double scale. We're going to do a for loop for int I is equal to 0. Then we're going to do I is greater than the amount, because we're scaling the amount of things that we're having in our ingredients app. Dot length dot I plus plus. Okay. Amount I, and then we're just gonna say times or equal to scale that we've already declared here. Now, I know this is a bit underwhelming, but we're basically done with the scale recipe method. You know, some methods take less time than others. But yeah, we're basically done with that. And then our next method will be our reset, public void reset recipe. If I'm not mistaken, if that's what they wanted. Ingredients. Yeah, clear all the data. Oh no, reset, here we go. Number 4 to be reset. Okay. Reset recipe. Huh. We're gonna do another for loop. So for int I, the different methods, so I can just do int I for all of these as long as I want. Int I is equal to 0. Just gonna tab that, but instead of steps, we're gonna use amount. And then we're gonna say amount, that 2, and then we're gonna say amount I is divided by or equal to 2. This will just reset everything we've done to the original recipe that we've done. And then that's it for the reset recipe method. Just gonna press enter here. And then our next one is, they wanted us to clear it for number 5, yeah. So clear data, so public void clear recipe. And then this is the lazy thing we're gonna do. Remember these things? Well, these are our arrays at their base values. And what we're saying is, okay, there's nothing in these with these zeros. So what we're just gonna do, we're just gonna copy these, paste it here, and then we're done. I mean, that's it for this new recipe class that we made. And remember, guys, it's always good to just document your, code. Just say what each line does. Just write stuff here. Because not only is it good practice, it's also kind of helpful for so when you are in a business or something like that and you're working with other people, at least they'll know what this line of code does instead of them trying to figure it out just like that. So it's good to just add comments, because then it's also good for if you made, say, this POE, right? I mean, say you had to look at it again in 2 years' time. Maybe you've forgotten a few things. Now you're trying to figure out what this code does. So it's better to just make comments. Okay, so now we're done with this class recipe here. So now we go back to our main. We're just gonna get rid of all of that. Now in our main method, we're gonna turn this class diagram into an object. Into an object. So we're gonna say recipe. We're gonna call our object recipe is equal to new recipe. And then we're gonna use a while true loop. So now we're just gonna make our interface. So I'm just gonna do this equals, just to make it look neat. Okay, so what do they want us to do? They wanted us to enter the recipe details, display the full recipe, scale the amounts to what the user wants to, from 0.5 to or triple, request the quantities to be reset to the original values, clear all the data, or not persist, which basically just means end the program. So we're just going to do another console.write line. We're going to call this one, we're going to use digits though. I want to say enter 1 to enter recipe details. This is the right line. We're going to just use a while true. It's an infinite loop, but we'll have a method that will break that. Well, a line of code that will break that infinite loop. We're just doing this so even if they do enter the wrong thing, it will just ask them the same stuff again. So CW again. Enter. You know what? Nah, I'm just gonna be lazy about this. Okay. They wanted us to enter the details. And the details. Then they wanted us to display the recipe, scale the recipe, reset, adding exit. Let's get one more thing here. So I think there were 6 options. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then this one, I'll just make this into another one of these. Okay, so number 2 was display recipe. So enter 2 to display recipe. Number 3 was scale. Okay. Enter 3 to scale recipe, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Scale. Can make a cap. Scale recipe. And then gonna enter 4 to reset quantities. God, I hope I spelled that right. Enter 5 to clear the recipes. And then enter 6 to exit. Okay. Now, underneath that, we're gonna use what's called a switch case. You can use an if statement for what I'm about to do. You can just do a lot of else ifs, but sometimes like switch cases, they just make things easier. Because remember, we're programmers. We're supposed to find the most efficient way in the most laziest way possible. So we're going to say string ANS for answer is equal to console.readline. And then we're going to say switch ANS is equal to that. Okay. So the difference between if statements and switches is that with switch statements, you just use cases. So we'll call this case 1, colon, and then we're going to pull our object down. So we're going to say recipe dot, and number 1 is they wanted us to enter our data. So we're going to scroll all the way down to enter data. And then we're going to go break. Break just means that once we've done that, it will just break this case. And then I'm just going to copy that for the other options. So we had 6 options. So this is case 2, case 3, case 4, case 5, case 6, and then, because this is in a loop, we'll have a default case, and then this will just say, wrong value, please try again, and then we'll just break that. So the number 2 was the display recipe. So we're just gonna backspace, dot, we look for recipe display, brackets, there we go. Number 3, they want us to scale this. So we're gonna backspace, dot, and then we're gonna look for recipe scale. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, recipe scale. Now we do need to do something a bit different. It needs to find out what we're trying to scale our amounts to. We can't just say, okay, scale it to this amount that doesn't exist. So we're going to say CW, and then we're going to ask the user to enter a scale of, they wanted a half, and we're using double, so 0.5, 1, or was it 0.5? No. It's 0.5, 2, or 3. So 0.5, 2, or 3. And then underneath that, we're just going to say double. We'll call this one scale 1 is equal to convert dot to double console dot read line. And then in this bracket for scale recipe, we'll put scale 1. So now when we do enter our value in here, it'll scale it by the value that we've entered. The next one is reset quantities. So dot reset recipe, done that. Number 5 is we're going to clear data or data dot clear recipe, and then our last one we're going to exit the program. So this one's just a bit different. We're not going to use recipe. We're going to use this thing called environment. So the environment we're working with right now, environment dot, and as you can see, it auto completed it for us. Exit. I'm just going to say exit 1 instead. And yeah, that's pretty much all the code for part 1 for what PROG and C Sharp. So now let's run it to test it out and look for any errors we may have. So I'm going to press 1 for recipe details, enter number of ingredients. Let's say we're going to make, I don't know, maybe a jam sandwich. Yeah, we're going to make a jam sandwich. Okay, so that's bread, butter, and jam. So that's 3 ingredients. So we'll say 3 ingredients. Ingredient 1, bread. Quantity, we need 2 slices of 2. units of measurement, we're just going to say slices. Ingredient 2, jam. Quantity, I don't know. 1 spread. I don't even think that's a real thing. 1 spread. And then our last ingredient is butter. Quantity 1. Plop. I'm just making measurements up now. 1 plop. Enter number of steps. Okay. So, how many steps are there to make a sandwich? So there's, you know, I'm just gonna do 5. Step 1, spread jam on bread. 1, spread butter on bread. 2, put both slices together. Cut in half. Eat bread or eat sandwich. Sandwich. Okay. Now we're just gonna display it, see if it works. There you go. So here are ingredients: 2 slices of bread, 2 slices of bread, and something's wrong here. So it's good to test these things out just to see where our problems come from. So now I'm just going to enter 6. Hopefully that closes the program. So you had to enter the program. So now something is wrong with our display method. So we're going to go down to recipe display and see where we messed up. Let's get a quick pause. Yep, that's why it's good to double check your code, guys. So the mistake was here. I made the 0 instead of putting the integer I in. We need to do that instead. That's what's supposed to give us all the ingredients we've added. And then also down here, we made that A. So that should fix everything now. So now we're going to have to make that sandwich again. So enter recipe, number of ingredients 3, bread 2 slices, jam 1, spread, and then butter 1, plop of butter. Number of steps 5. Put jam on 1 slice. Put butter on the other slice. Close. Sandwich. Cut sandwich in half. Eat it. Okay, so now if we display our recipes, here we go, fixed it. 2 slices of bread, 1 spread of jam, 1 pop of butter, and then it's got our steps. And now we'll try and scale it up. So press 3, and then we need to type how we want to scale it by. Okay, so I'm just gonna scale it by 3. So now if we display it, it should be scaled up. It was 2 slices of bread, 1 jam, 1 pop of butter, so hopefully it scales it up. Here you go. 6 slices, 6 slices of bread, 3 spread of jam, and 3 plops of butter. And then we're going to try reset the quantities now with 4. Let's do the display. As you can see, everything's back to normal. And then we're going to press 5 to clear everything. Press 2. And everything's empty. And that's our program for part 1. So yeah, that's pretty much all you had to do for PROG part 1 for C Sharp for the recipe app. And I hope that helps, because I have noticed, even in my own class, some of us do kind of need help with this assignment for reasons I cannot discuss on the channel. But those of you who know me know what's going on. So yeah. I hope this helps, And until next time, so I'm just going to exit this program. And I'm going to exit this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and, send it to your friends. Every subscriber helps. We can do this, guys. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Go away now.